Hey, good morning everyone. Today I want to talk about something I've been working on lately. Something I think every game developer should consider adding to their workflow. Controller support. Maybe you have already been doing this for a while and think I'm late to the party. But if I just realize how important this is, chances are someone else out there might find this useful too. Let's start from the beginning. I have a game published on Steam, Farm Invader. If you haven't checked it out yet, it's available for a really low price. One thing Farm Invader is still missing though is, well, controller support. Why? Because in my mind, the game was done. Adding controller support now means building some core systems, revisiting old messy code and risking breaking things. Even in a relatively simple game, that can be daunting. And while I could go back and add it now, I realized something. It would have been so much easier if I had just built it from the start. That's why, for my next game, I'm making controller support priority from day one. I'm currently working on a deck building Tetris-like game. If you missed my previous video about it, I highly recommend checking it out. This game will have way more mechanics than Farm Invader, so I knew that if I wanted controller support, it was best to implement it early, while the code was still fresh and flexible. And honestly, I think every game developer should do this. On paper, controller support sounds simple. Add an input setting and call it a day. Wrong. In reality, controller support changes how the entire game behaves. One of the first things I ran into was controller recognition. Unlike keyboards where the inputs are always the same, controllers can be unpredictable. Not all controllers work the same way. Xbox, PlayStation and Switch controllers all have slight differences from layout to some extra buttons, and touchscreen? Don't get me started on that. Switching between keyboard and controller in real time, yeah, that adds another layer of complexity. If you've ever played a game where you have to restart it just to switch from controller to keyboard, that's why. The system wasn't built to handle input switching dynamically. Another thing I quickly realized is that controller support isn't just adding button inputs, it changes how the game behaves entirely. With a mouse, players can instantly click anywhere on the screen, but with a controller, every movement is sequential, meaning the player needs to navigate between UI elements. For example, in Farm Invader, menus are built with a mouse in mind. You just click or hover on some element and it works. But with a controller, I need to define focus paths to determine which button gets highlighted next when you press up, down, left or right. It might not seem like a big deal, but without a clear navigation path, controller players can get stuck, or worse, unable to select a button at all. I already had to restructure a bunch of UI code just to make sure the focus system worked properly, and honestly, I'm still refining it. Another thing I know will be a struggle later, but I'm preparing for, is dynamic input indicators. If the player is using a mouse, they should see tooltips that say things like click to continue. But if they are using a controller, the UI should update to show something like press A or X to continue. And if they switch between inputs, the game needs to detect that and update in real time. I haven't fully tackled this yet, but I've laid some groundwork to detect input types and swap icons accordingly. I just know that once I start integrating it into every menu, it's going to be a headache. But at least I won't be starting from scratch. Here is how I tackled it. First, decide your target platforms. Do you want your game to run on Steam Deck, consoles, or just be controller friendly on PC? Secondly, study existing games with great controller support. Playtest similar games and see how they handle inputs. For me, I played a bunch of Slay the Spire on my PS5. It absolutely nails controller support. And lastly, lay the groundwork early. Start setting up controller navigation and focus path for UI elements. Make sure your input system supports both keyboard, mouse and controllers from the get-go. Trust me, it's easier to tweak things along the way than to retrofit everything later. For me, this meant establishing a clear focus path for each control node. I had to restructure some code and move things around, but in the end I got something that works. So if you're working on a game, even a small one, seriously consider adding controller support early on. It will save you a lot of headaches down the road. So I'm curious, how do you handle controller support in your games? Have you ever had to painfully retrofit it like me? Drop a comment below, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe and check out Farm Invader on Steam. See you in the next one! Bye!